So we were actually discovering the other day that two actors from Bill's films, Peter Capaldi from Local Hero, who played Danny Olson, and Christine Lottie, both won Academy Awards for Best Short Film and then became directors further. And Peter Riegert was nominated for a Best Short Film Academy Award. So you've trained them well.
Well, I hope that gets me a good cast for my next movie. If I can advertise that fact.
One of the really nice things about back to the two young actresses again, about watching them tonight, 22 years later, is that for me they didn't go on to have a longer career, and it just made them that much more real and vivid. And I'm reminded of this quote from James Agee, who was talking about the child actor Jackie Butch Jenkins in The Human Comedy. He said, I hope he never acts in a film again, because then he'll just be another actor."
Yeah. Oh well.
Tonight was very real and kind of it helps. I saw this first saw this film 20 years ago and maybe a couple other times shortly after that, but to see it again tonight was really, because of that, was really discovering it all over again.
Well, it was good to work with them. I can't take all the credit, and they in their different ways they got into the parts, and say with Christine's help, but they were so different. They just demanded different things, scene by scene, take by take. I remember there was a scene where. I didn't watch the film with you tonight, and I'm trying to remember where it was. It was towards the end. One of them was we had to. Lucille had to cry, and Christine had and I had tried lots of things with her. I remember a funny moment when, because Christine had worked separately with them in their trailers and things like that, and she was finding it very, very difficult to raise a tear, and Christine said, "Remember we talked about the time your dog died?" And she said, "Well, that doesn't work anymore." Okay, right, what's next?
The period detail is just so wonderfully done, and not overdone. I think there isn't wall-to-wall music, just a couple of hints of songs, and
that's probably budget.
Yeah, but I wonder what were the guiding principles for you in terms of period detail, being this being your first period film.
Well, it was probably interest as much as anything, because when I grew up, and I grew up in the 50s in Britain, and my elder sister, it was just after the war, and my elder sister had a pen pal who lived in Chicago, funnily enough, or Illinois, I'm not sure if she was in the town, and we had a sense, we used to get, they weren't food parcels, they were just gift parcels. We used to get things with lifesavers in them and little sweets, and I remember I got a little American truck with it was a farmer's truck, and it had spades and things in it, and it was things like we'd never seen in Britain before. And comics, American comics. So that period, the 50s, was a period that, in a way, I had attached myself to, and it was just research from that point on. But it was, if I close my eyes and think of America, then I think of America in the 50s. So it was a pleasant journey to recreate it.
There was actually a brief time after you acquired the option on the novel and wrote the screenplay, where it was being developed at Cannon Films, which was kind of a interesting, mostly low-budget studio in the thrived in the 80s, mostly on exploitation films, but occasionally they did a real class project.
That's right. They had to kind of up their act just to keep the front going. So they were obsessed with stars. They paid nothing, but they still wanted stars. I mean, the deal that we had with them for housekeeping was that they were going to give me, our budget for the whole film was $3 million, but they were prepared to pay Diane Keaton, I think, half of that. So that's this kind of situation we're in. But it was a very, very difficult film to finance at all, and the fact that they were interested, kept it alive for about a year. As I say, Diane Keaton was attached to it for most of that year. No contracts had been signed, but we talked about it, and it was going ahead on the basis that she would be involved in it. We started pre-production, and we had done everything. We'd got the locations and sorted out, and Bob Colesbury, the producer, and I, we were in Vancouver. We'd settled there, we'd opened offices, we started to hire people, started to cast local people, and then I had to visit to New York to talk to Diane, and I thought we were going to talk about costume and, you know, get down to, you know, nuts and bolts about making the film. But when I met her, she very quickly told me that she had found something else and she wasn't going to do the movie. And that was maybe August, and we were supposed to start shooting in late September, because we had all these seasons to get. We needed summer, autumn and winter, you know, so we had to. So I came out of her apartment and just walked the streets of New York thinking, you know, my life is over. Fortunately, a few things happened. It was the time that David Puttnam was just about to start at Columbia as the head of production. My agent managed to find him after a kind of tearful phone call from me. He managed to get hold of David. And within 3 or 4 weeks, the movie had switched from from Canon to Columbia. And then, of course, we had to recast it. So that's when I had a proper search, because the search before with Canon had been very limited, because they just wanted a name, you know, and it was virtually down to, you know, Diane Keaton or Jessica Lange or something like that at the time, you know, that was it. But then we were able to broaden the field and look properly for an actress, and that's how we found Christine.
Putnam, I think, I'm not sure about the exact chronology of events, you may not be either, but I think by the time the film was ready for release, he was already out at Columbia.
That's right, yeah. It was just that 1 year I think he was there. And I mean, normally he's a clever operator, but he surprisingly got a few things wrong just in the way that he came in and kind of landed in Hollywood, and he was just a little too brash in what he wanted to do. And he hired too many people like me from Britain, because they ended up, for that year, they ended up calling Columbia British Columbia. Because I was there, and a couple of other, Pat O'Connor was there. It was quite a little row of suddenly. And so he kind of got that wrong a bit, you know. Yeah. But I've got a lot to thank him for, because I got to make this film.
Yeah, of course. Well, your actual producer on the film you mentioned was Robert Colesbury, the late Robert Colesbury.
Yeah.
Died about 5 or 6 years ago, who was also one of the executive producers of, in my humble opinion, the greatest television show ever made, The Wire, on HBO, and he's a bit player on that show. But I know he was really very supportive of you, and then you worked together again on Being Human. And
that's right. Bob and I were, if I think of anyone in the film business that I've been close to and have, you know, had a working relationship with, it would be Bob, yeah. He was a great producer. He was very, very supportive and loyal to a project, you know, in his own way, you know. But as I said, you know, when he died, I spoke at his ceremony, and I said that when I was making a film with Bob, I was making my film, but Bob was making his film, you know, in a parallel way. He was, as a producer, he was making his film, and there were two different things, but they were equally important, you know.
It's good to have that persistence of vision and loyalty.
But he had this little thing that he always needed to be. He was a bit like Hitchcock. I mean, he was in the Wire. He had a recurring part, and just remembering, the only thing that I let him do here was he did some voices on it. So just near the end of the fire there, when one of the neighbours starts to shout about the fire, that was Bob. He just got a few words in.
You actually have a really wonderful story about him on Being Human, and his tried valiantly but in vain to save a major prop. In Being Human, one of the episodes was set in 16th century Africa, when a Portuguese merchant ship is founders on a beach. And when I wrote the episode, I'd written it out at sea with all these characters and all their finery and all their possessions on a raft that they had built after the ship had foundered. So we went through the motions of building this. It was in the budget. It was a hugely expensive thing. It's steel frame and buoyancy tanks underneath it and everything. And we were going to put 30 or 40 actors on it and actually go out and shoot it. It was madness when you think about it.